start worrying about, going out and getting that guy, especially since I don't think that guy exists in this draft. I understand people love Kenny Pickett, and I think Kenny Pickett actually has a chance to be a good NFL quarterback. I just don't know that he's that guy that we're talking about. And I think there's a number of guys who are good quarterbacks in the NFL that, you can win some games with and stuff like that. But when you watch a guy like Pat Mahomes, you watch a guy like, even Brady, or you watch a guy like Allen, and you know what, even I will even say, this Joe Burrow got the snot beat out of him the other day and kept getting up, and then, at the end of the game when they needed a play, made a huge play and they win the game. I don't know, man. I think that if that guy doesn't exist in this draft, do everything in your power to figure out the best way to build your team around him so that you're right. When that guy comes around, you're ready.
Yeah, and if Kenny Pickett is that guy, then I'm guessing one of the 19 selections before the Steelers, somebody will take him. If he is that guy, that one of the teams will recognize that we need a quarterback and this guy could help us, and we'll take him ahead of the Steelers. If he were to fall down and you think he's that guy, I think that maybe changes your plans. But I'm not even worried. I mean, yes, everyone's curious in who the next quarterback's going to be. But they need to use this draft for so many areas that quarterback is just one of the concerns. I mean, they've got to build for the future. And what they don't need to do is spend a hell of a lot of money this offseason in trying to find a fix-it quarterback. What they need to do is spend a hell of a lot of money this offseason securing Minkah Fitzpatrick, finding some help along the lines, maybe another tight end, maybe another receiver. Use that money wisely to get younger guys that you can have for a long-term deal when hopefully next year, which could be another year of the quarterback type draft, you can find your quarterback then if Mason Rudolph or Mitch Trubisky or one of these other low-rent guys aren't the answer.
You look at the coaching staff and some of the discussions they're having, about who's going to do what. Are you getting a little bit nervous, at least, that we're going to be really underwhelmed when it all shakes out?
Yeah, I mean, I think if Terrell Austin were on the open market, I think he would be an attractive candidate for some of the things he did in Detroit. I know it didn't go well in Cincinnati, but he's been on some Super Bowl teams. He's been on some very good Ravens teams on the coaching staff, was in the Super Bowl with Arizona on its coaching staff, coached at some very high college places, including Penn State, Michigan, Florida. I think you would look and say, well, okay, there's some merit to bringing him aboard. So I'm not as concerned about him being, quote unquote, underwhelming if he is promoted from within. It's that next guy that they could bring in. Like, I want to see someone like Mike Tomlin was when he was in his late 20s, early 30s, like that dynamic young coach that guys could really get behind. You could see could be a difference and bring some new ideas into the organization.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing to me, I don't know how you tell your head coach that you've really given a lot of power to and you've let him, and he's earned a lot too. I don't know how you tell him, okay, well, now you're going to have to hire somebody and you're not, you're going to have to let go of your play calling duties. I just don't see how that works. I just don't think it works.
No, I don't think it does either. I think there's certain head coaches that, fall to a side. Andy Reid calls plays. Matt LaFleur in Green Bay calls plays. I mean, there's a lot of offense. There are a lot of coaches, including the coaches that will meet in the AFC Championship or in the NFC Championship game that call plays. I mean, that's the reality. There are a ton of coaches that tinker in that regard, and Tomlin does on defense. And I think another reason why it's likely that you'll see Terrell Austin is he understands that. There might be other candidates that might interview, might be curious, but when it's all said and done, might think, I want to go to a place where maybe I'll get left alone. Like, if you're on Pitt's staff and you're the offensive coordinator for Pitt, Narduzzi's going to leave you alone. But if you're the defensive coordinator, that's his area. That's what he loves. And it's the same with Tomlin. I don't think it's that unusual, and I don't think there's any way that the Rooneys say, listen, you're not going to call plays. Because if that were the case, then just get rid of the coach entirely if you have that kind of issue with him.
Yeah, there's no question. I don't think they would, and I don't think they will either. But I do think that they have to, do some things to just sort of shake things up with the coaching staff a little bit. But if we end up in a situation where you've basically promoted the secondary coach, and I like Terrell Austin. I think he's a very good coach, and he's a great dude. But if you're selling it in just generically, you promoted the secondary coach, you made the interim line coach the line coach, and you kept the offensive coordinator in place. I don't know how that makes you better.
I think I look at it this way, Paul. So let's say Terrell Austin gets promoted, but you bring in a nice young up-and-coming candidate to coach the secondary, and then you replace Ike Hilliard with a guy that could come in and not just be a receivers coach and maybe put some kind of spark in that receiving core, but bring something offensively to help Matt Canada, or you do the same at offensive line. You bring in a guy that also has some play calling, run game calling capabilities that can help in that room. And then all of a sudden, I think you look at this coaching staff differently. I think Dunbar's a guy that's locked. I think he's a guy that's going to be there just because he's very, very highly thought of. And I know Tomlin likes him. He's a guy the players like. I think he's going to be there. But beyond that, I think you could shake up any of the other positions and make a reasonable case for any of them and why you'd want to bring in some fresh blood. And I think they really have to look at that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. I think there are some really good coaches on the staff, but it just is one of those things where you hope that or you believe that sometimes a little change is not bad. And I think one of the things the Steelers have struggled with over the years is understanding that concept.
Yeah, and I get loyalty. I think loyalty, there should be a value on loyalty. I get that. Promoting from within, too. I mean, if you've got the right person and they've worked hard and they've done everything you've asked and you think they're a good fit, sure, promote from within. I think that makes sense. But what I think this team is lacking, and let's think of where they've gone recently for their assistants. Hilliard seemed like it was going to be a good hire. It hasn't worked. Their offensive line coach was a complete shot in the dark. They brought in Tom Bradley to coach defensive backs. He's a 60-year-old former college coach. Like, what was that fit? Like, that didn't make sense. I think they've made some errors in some of these assistants that they've brought in. And again, I think they don't have to bring in a 30-year-old coordinator or a brand-new coordinator, but if they bring in other guys around either coordinator with new ideas can help bring some life into that coaching staff, I think they can have the same results without maybe having the most powerful position on each side of the ball change.
There's no question. Well, Jeff, I appreciate you jumping on, buddy, and I know you're busy and everything else, so thanks for taking some time, and I'm sure we'll do it again soon.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, brother. That is Jeff Hathhorn on Paul's Isis 93.7 The Fan.